Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Allie. I have a blog called Grace and Lipstick, and today I am going to be sharing with you how I did this makeup look. I was in a wedding this past weekend, and this is the makeup that I did as a bridesmaid. But this is definitely a look that you could wear as a bride, as a bridesmaid, as a wedding guest, whichever it is you are, or even just for whatever event you want. But specifically, these tips and products that I am going to be sharing in this video are tailored towards somebody who is doing their makeup for a wedding. Alright, so before I get started, I just want to do a few disclaimers. First of all, I've never used this mic before, so fingers crossed there isn't any weird interference or rustling. Bear with me. My first time. The second disclaimer is that while I do have my license in cosmetology, I am not a makeup artist. Everything I have learned about makeup, how to apply it, what products to use, has been solely from the advice of my sister who's a makeup artist and YouTube. Of course, it is not crucial for you to have exactly the same products that I do, but these products did work for me very well. And I think that if you have a skin type similar to mine, then these products would probably work really well for you. And yeah, let's get started. I'm gonna do my best to explain what I'm doing and then do it so that I can speed it up and we're not sitting here for a million years. First things first, you want to start with a clean face. I've already washed my hands, I've cleansed my face, I applied a toner and a moisturizer, and that has had time to soak into my skin, so my face is fully ready to apply makeup. The first thing I'm going to do is apply this primer. I'm only going to apply it in my T-zone because I have combination skin, and this is the area that tends to build up oil and grease throughout the day. So I'm using the Makeup Forever Step 1 Skin Equalizer Mattifying Primer. I'm going to apply a little bit to the back of my hand, and then I'm going to use this flat paddle brush to apply it. Alright, now that I have that applied, I am going to start with my eyes. So I find it very important to start with your eyeshadow first because for me, it takes the longest. I find it to be the most challenging, and once I have my eyes done, I feel like I can breathe and it's smooth sailing for the rest of your makeup. So to start off, I'm going to prime my eyes with the Urban Decay Eyeshadow Primer Potion. I'm going to take this little brush. This is JH08 by Morphe, and I'm going to blend out this eyeshadow primer. Make sure you blend all the way out here because we are going to apply eyeshadow out here and then wipe it away to get a nice clean line and into your inner corner. Okay. My camera was not recording, so if I jumped around a little bit, I apologize, but I just took this flat fluffy brush and this Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Finish powder to set my eyeshadow primer. It doesn't matter what powder you use, what brush, as long as it's skin tone colored powder and you cover all of the primer. For my eyeshadow today, I'm going to be using the Jaclyn Hill palette by Morphe. I'm going to zoom up close and personal with my eyes for this, and I will point to whichever shade I'm going to use and then show you how I apply it. Hopefully that will allow you to replicate what I do. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is to take a really large and fluffy eyeshadow brush. This is Morphe M504. And I'm going to dip it into Silk Cream and MFEO. It's these two shades right here. And I literally am just going to dip it like this. Back and forth, grab some, do a little tap, and here we go. pretty much applying this all over my lid. Make sure you bring it out because, as I said, we're going to wipe that with the Beauty Blender, so you want to make sure you get the eyeshadow blended far enough out. Don't be shy with the amount of shadow you use, especially with these shades. They're pretty light, and this is my third time going in and just building up this color. I use swirling motions, back and forth motions, really just blending it. I'm not really focusing on getting it close to my lash line or close to my brow, but I am putting it pretty much everywhere. I mean, you can see where I'm putting it, right? We get the gist of it. Now I'm going to go in with a slightly smaller but still large fluffy brush to apply my next color. We're going to take this guy, which is the JH32, and I am going to dip into these two shades, which are Butter and Pooter. Beautiful. Yep, those are the names. I'm going to apply this a little bit more neatly into my crease, windshield wipers, make sure I bring it all the way out here into the outer corner, and repeat. I just want to mention that I do follow the natural curve right here. So our eyes, our crease kind of goes like this. I kind of bring it out and drag it right under the brow bone right there for this shade. And bring it out because we're going to wipe it off. So, and then back down to the lash line. And I'm going to follow that pattern with each eyeshadow that I get darker with as we go along. I'm grabbing another brush and I'm going to compare it to the one I just used because it's very similar, but it is slightly smaller. And we are going to move on to this shade right there, which is called Buns. And we are going to start with the corner of the eyelid and then blending it out into the crease about halfway at first. And then after a lot of the pigmentation's out, then I continue blending it across to make a cohesive blend across the eye and out. At this point, there's really not a lot of eyeshadow on my brush, so I feel comfortable to kind of just sweep it around everywhere. Now we're going to do the other eye, and I'm going to keep doing this over and over and over until I feel like I have the right amount of pigment where I want it. Okay, I'm going in once again with an even smaller brush. I will compare the brushes again so you can see. Okay, now I'm going to go in, hopefully these aren't too blurry, with the M433, this littler brush. And I'm going to dip into Mocha, which is this pretty brown right there. Using the tip of my brush, dusting off the excess, and applying this in the outermost part of the eye. Sometimes it helps if you open your eye for this part to kind of see where you want it, keeping it pretty much in the outer V of the eyelid, and then once you have all that pigment down, you can blend it up into the crease to make it more cohesive with the rest of the eye look. Once again, and winging it under that brow bone like I showed you earlier. We're just building up the depth in the outer corner. Now that I've applied that darker color, it's time to go in with one of the larger fluffy brushes that I used previously. So I'm just grabbing this brush that I used earlier. I'm not dipping into any more eyeshadow, and I'm just going to blend all of the edges. Now I'm going to grab a really small fluffy brush. We are using the JH40, and I'm going to dip into Central Park, which is this dark brown right there, just a little bit, like 2 taps. Dust it off, and this one I'm definitely going to use my eye open just to really deepen up that little corner right here. Two taps. Tap it off and keep it real close to the edge here in the corner, a little bit up into the V. Okay, now that I have applied Central Park to the outer corners, I'm going to grab my big fluffy brush once more and blend. The next step is going to be to grab a flat, compact brush. This guy is the JH41, and I'm going to use this to apply shimmer all over my lid. Well, not all over, but you'll see where. This color right here is called Smoky But Natural. I've loaded my brush up with shadow, and I'm going to take the Morphe Continuous Setting Spray, and I'm going to wet it down a bit, and then I'm going to apply. It helps to look down, so I'm grabbing this mirror here so I can see where to apply this shadow. My brush is already wet, so I'm just going to take it and dip it back into the shadow, grab some more, and continue applying it about halfway across the crease. I'm bringing it up pretty high into my crease so that when I open my eyes, you can see the shimmer still a little bit in my crease. Not too much. Kind of meet it up right about there, 3/4 of the way with the Central Park shadow. And I'm going to wet it one more time just to perfect this little line that I'm making in the crease. I don't want it to be too crisp, which is why I'm not doing a cut crease, but I do want it to be up there. Now I'm going to flip over to the other side of my brush, and I'm going to grab some of this shadow right there, which is called Meeks. And I'm going to use this shadow to blend the Central Park with the Smoky But Natural. Lastly, I'm going to grab my blending brush one more time and just quickly sweep over the edges. And now I'm going to do this on the other side. Now that I have applied those shimmers to both eyes, I'm going to go in one more time with Central Park and deepen up this outer corner just a tad. Make sure you're sweeping it out past that line so that when you clean it up, the eyeshadow meets the line you made. Deepen it up a little bit in the crease. We're going to do one last sweep with the fluffy blending brush. And now the top of your eyeshadow is done. I'm just going to grab a makeup wipe, wrap it around your finger nice and tight, and I'm going to create a line from the edge of my eye up to where my brow will meet. It's soft and we're going to blend it, so it's not important for it to be perfect, but it did clean up and make a nice line. Now that the eyeshadow is done, I'm going to go in with the Kat Von D tattoo liner in Trooper Black, and I'm going to apply just a line over my upper lid. And I'll be right back. I'm gonna go do the other eye. All right, so now that we are done with the upper part of my eyeshadow, I'm gonna go ahead and start working on my complexion. So this is actually totally new to my routine, but I did do this on the wedding day, and I feel like it made a big difference because we were super tired from the rehearsal the night before. This is the Becca Under Eye Brightening Corrector. It only comes in, I think, 2 to 3 shades, so it's pretty universal. You apply it under your foundation and under your concealer, so it's not too important for the color to match you. And I just take my little ring finger, I dip it in the pot, and I apply this under my eyes. Now that I have applied that, I'm going to take my damp beauty sponge, which is the Morphe one. It has 2 flat edges here and then a rounded pointy side. And I'm going to be using the Smashbox Studio Skin 15-Hour Wear Hydrating Foundation. I apply a lot more foundation for a wedding than I would in typical day. Typical day I'll use a pump, maybe a pump and a half. I'm pretty sure I use like at least 3 pumps for this because I want to get really good coverage. And I also take my time with blending. Even after you feel like it's spread all around your face, you want to take your sponge and just pounce it in so that it really seeps in and looks more skin-like and less like you have foundation on top of your skin, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to time lapse through this part. Okay, now that I feel like I've adequately blended in my foundation, I'm going to move on to concealer. Today I'm using the Tarte Double Duty Beauty Shape Tape. I also just want to mention that all of the products I use in this video are the actual products I used for the wedding. They're tried and true and tested, and they worked very well. So I'm going to go in with this concealer, and I'm going to apply it a little bit on my chin. This is going to really help add a little bit more coverage and also add some dimension to my face. I'm going to apply just a tad over a few areas that I need a bit more coverage on blemishes. And now we're going to blend it out. I'm going to start with the blemishes. You really lightly want to just tap over them and then use the corner of this sponge to blend around them. That way you don't remove any of the coverage that the concealer is giving you. Now I'm going to apply this concealer under my eyes, and I do want to mention that I do try to keep it a little bit further away from directly under my eyes because it is a heavy, thick product, and I use the Beauty Blender to carry it up into that area so that I get a little bit of a lighter application. At this point, I am going to use the pointed side, the rounder pointed side, to blend out my concealer. I'm sure you noticed, but I made sure to be looking up while I blended in the concealer under my eyes. I held my mirror up here and blended, and I'm going to do the same thing when I'm setting it because it smooths out the skin under your eyes, and that way you're setting it smooth and not with lines. I need to repurchase this product, but I learned from Jaclyn Hill that these two powders in the Kat Von D Shade and Light palette work really well to set under your eyes, and I've been doing it ever since she mentioned it, and I agree, they work really well. So I just take my Beauty Blender and I swipe in both the powders, and I'm going to use the other side that I don't have any powder on yet to re-smooth out my under eye. Hey guys, Editing Allie here. My camera accidentally cut out and I wasn't able to explain, but I used the side without powder to blend out the creases and then flipped it over to set the concealer with powder. Make sure that you set this by moving your sponge back and forth to really work it into all of those fine lines and set your under eye concealer super smooth. You can see how I use one side of the sponge and then flip it over to use the powdered side. Now I'm going to move on to setting the rest of my face. For my skin type, I found that the Cover FX Perfect Setting Powder works really well for me. And I'm going to use my beauty sponge to do this. I go ahead and shake some of that into the lid. I'm using the flat edge of the sponge like I did the foundation. And I'm just going to work that into all of my face. Now that I have applied a good amount of powder all over my face using my beauty sponge, I do look pretty flat and powdery. But all of these steps are super important for your makeup to last all day. So at this point, I am going to set my face so that all of these products will soak into my skin. They'll get a nice dewier finish, but not be greasy or oily. As you know, I struggle with that. So I'm going to spray the Morphe Continuous Setting Mist all over my face. And then I'm going to sit extremely still and not move because that'll create creasing. And I'm going to use this fan to dry it off. Okay, now that that is completely dry, I'm going to move on to do my eyebrows, which I am going to do off camera because they take a really long time and they're really hard to do on camera. So I'm just going to do them and I will be right back. Alright, now that I finished my brows, I'm going to move on to finish the rest of my eyeshadow. I'm going to start off with this ColourPop E9 brush. It's small and fluffy, and I'm going to dip it into the first two eyeshadows I started with on top, which were Silk Cream and MFEO. And I'm going to apply this underneath my lash line. And I'm going to meet it up with the corner here and blend it in. Let me zoom in for you really quick. Now that we are back up close and personal, I'm going to show you how I apply the eyeshadow underneath my eyes. I am using a small little handheld mirror, similarly to how I did my concealer, so that I can look up while applying this shadow. And I'm going to use this brush to also blend out this line we created when we use the makeup wipe, because I don't want it to be too harsh. And I am also holding this brush pretty flat up against my face to apply the eyeshadow close to my lash line and not to my under eye. Now I am going in with the Morphe E18 brush. It's a little bit more dense and compact, and I'm going to dip into the next two shades, which are Butter and Pooter, just dipping with the tip of my brush, just like this, into the shadow. And I'm going to hold this brush also pretty tight up against my face. And I'm going to apply this all along the bottom lash line, just like I did with the last shades, but this is going to be a little bit darker and a little bit tighter to the lash line. Now I'm grabbing the Morphe R49. It is a lot denser, flatter of a brush, and I'm going to dip this into Buns. And this one I'm only going to keep on the bottom third of my lash line. So super tight up close to the lashes, dragging it back and forth, probably till right about there, maybe more like halfway, and blending it up into this corner as well. I'm going to grab this completely flat definer brush. It is the JH43, and I'm going to dip that into Mocha. And I'm keeping this pretty much right where we just applied Buns, but it's going to be even tighter because we're using this tiny definer brush. Maybe a little bit less than halfway. Really just wiggle it back and forth right up into your lashes. And make sure you meet it up with the upper lash line where you have that liner. I'm going to dip it a tiny bit into Central Perk, and I'm really just going to keep that super close to the outer corner, just to match up with the top and keep that depth really far out over here in the corner. Now I'm going to grab the first brush, the ColourPop E9. I'm going to go back in with my first two lightest shades, and I am going to blend my lashes, my lower lash line together. Now I'm going to grab this super tiny little flat brush, JH42, and I'm going to dip into Beam. Well, I'm going to dip into In Light, and I'm going to apply this in my inner corner. I'm also going to really lightly tap into this to apply it under my brow, but I don't want to put as heavy of amount under my brow as I did in my inner corner. And that is all for my eyeshadow. I'm just going to finish up my eyes by applying a little mascara on my bottom lashes. The one mistake I made on the wedding day that I didn't think of until literally the minute I was applying my under eye mascara is that I did not use a waterproof mascara. I highly, highly suggest that if you're putting any mascara on for any wedding, that it be waterproof. So don't make my mistake, and I'll be right back. Alright, so now that we have finished the eyes, we get to move on to the rest of the face, which is my favorite part because in my opinion, it's the easiest. So we are going to start with bronzer. I'm using the Alexis Ren ColourPop collaboration, and the bronzer is Golden Moment. And I'm grabbing this large fluffy brush, xoxo. I'm dipping straight in. This is like a newer thing I started doing, and I feel like it really works well. And then I'm just gonna go to town. One thing you want to keep in mind when you're doing your makeup for a wedding is that you want to apply more bronzer, more blush, more highlight. In general, you want your makeup to be more dramatic than you would for a normal day. This is because in photos, a lot of that gets blown away. Also, with the sun, being outside, just in general, it's almost like you're doing stage makeup. You're going to be standing up in front of everyone, and there's gonna be lights on you and photos, and you're gonna be wearing this makeup all day long. So a good rule of thumb to follow, I don't know if that's the right saying, put more than you think, because it's gonna wear off throughout the day and it's gonna look a lot better in your photos if you do that. So now that I've applied my bronzer, I'm gonna apply a little bit of contour, and for this, I do a really, really light shade. It's the Makeup Forever, and it's this one. I apologize. The name of it must be behind that pan, and I can't get to that. And I'm gonna use the JH05 brush to just very loosely and sloppily apply that wherever you contour, because we are gonna be baking, and that is gonna clean it all up. And it's a super, super light shade, so I feel that I don't have to be extremely careful with it. And apply contour is personal per person, so you have to find the areas of your face that you feel you need to add a little bit of contouring, and don't just copy what everyone else does, because everyone's facial shape is different. So for me, I like putting it here because my face is really long and it kind of shortens it a tiny bit. Same with my nose. My nose goes a little bit long here, so I apply it under my nose. And you, as a general rule, you can follow from the top of your ear to the corner of your mouth for where to apply the contour, but you want it to be above that line. So when you apply your bake, you apply it there and it keeps your contour above, which is what we are gonna do next. So I put a good amount of the CoverFX Perfect Setting Powder in the lid. I'm gonna take my Morphe sponge and this flat edge, and I'm going to load it up close to the tip. And I'm gonna draw a line from the top of my ear to the edge of my mouth. I'm also going to take a little bit of this powder and dabbing it mainly along the edge here, and I'm going to bake a little bit here on my nose. I don't really know if this does much, but it makes me feel better, so I do it. You want to make sure that you don't make these lines too far apart, because the farther apart they are, the wider your nose is going to look, and I am not trying to make my nose Sorry to interrupt again, but of course we had more technical difficulties, and I was basically just saying I'm not trying to make my nose look wider, which I did make it look crooked. So be careful when you're baking your nose. Okay, so my memory card filled up and that shut off, so I apologize. Where was I? I've never applied this much powder on my nose, but you know what? I think it's gonna work out just fine. So we're just gonna keep moving forward. At this point, I'm going to apply my highlight, and I'm gonna use the Morphe R31 and the Anastasia Beverly Hills Emerald highlight, which is one of my all-time favorite highlights in the entire world, but specifically with this brush. I feel like this highlight is a little bit finicky on the way you apply it. So I'm gonna apply at the tops of my cheeks. I'm gonna apply at my Cupid's bow. And that's about all of the areas that I highlight. So let me be right back. So I used to be someone who is a little bit afraid to highlight because I have more textured, problematic skin, but I find that highlight is one of the most crucial parts of doing your makeup, especially when you're wearing this amount of makeup, because it soaks into your skin, it mixes with your natural oils and setting sprays, and it makes your skin look more skin-like. Everybody's skin is not flat. It has a natural gleam to it at the high points. So I'm gonna add a little bit more gleam with this cookie highlight in the middle, just at the high points of my cheeks. For my blush, I'm gonna go in with two because I have two favorites. I'm gonna use Prim from this holiday limited edition Bling It On Tarte palette. And I'm gonna top it off with Matte Warm Soul Mineralized Blush. And I'm going to use the xoxo blush brush. So I always start by applying my blush back here, and then I bring it forward to the apples of the cheeks. And blush is the first item to wear off your face, so I go ham and apply a lot because I like the way it looks, and also because I know it's just gonna go away real quick. Now that I have applied my blush, I am going to sweep away my bake. I'm going to use the xoxo to sweep away the bake on my nose, and I'm also going to apply a little bit more of the powder I used to set under my eyes, just to brighten up that area now that I have applied all the other powders to my face. So we're just going to dip into these two and apply in this little triangle of light that you want under your eyes. Kind of helps blend in with the highlight and the blush. You can probably see a difference. In all those light areas. And I believe my face is done. The last step is going to be to set it with a finishing spray. So specifically you want one that is designed not only to set your face, but to make it last. I'm using the Skindinavia Makeup Finishing Spray for oil control. The last two steps are going to be to set my eyebrows and to apply my lipstick. So I am using the Nude Sticks Eyebrow Stylist Pencil and Gel to set my eyebrows. And now for my lips, I'm going to apply the Makeup Forever Waterproof Aqua Lip in the shade 3C, and I'm going to top it off with the Ofra Cosmetics liquid lipstick in Pasadena. I like this combination because it's neutral, but it still is a little bit of color, and it dries matte. So you can kiss your future hubby, or drink your wine, or toast your champagne and not worry about getting lipstick anywhere. And with that, we are done with our makeup and wedding ready. I really hope that this video was helpful to you guys, that I was able to explain things clearly, and that I mentioned all the products that I used. Don't worry, I will have everything written out and linked for you in a blog post on graceandlipstick.com, my blog. And I hope that if any of you guys try out replicating this makeup, that you have success. I recommend that you practice ahead of time for an event that maybe doesn't matter too much, going out for drinks with a friend, or even just before you are gonna shower, just do a little practice. It really does make a difference, and I think it is super necessary. So if you would like to see more things like this, I would suggest you follow me on Instagram at Grace and Lipstick. I am the most active there. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you would like to, you can subscribe, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment if you have any questions, or just hit me up on Instagram and I'll talk to you there. Well, that's all. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Goodness. Okay. Bordeaux! Just want to mention that I have a bird, and I apologize now if he's chirping throughout the entire video. Take a breath, take a breath, take a breath. That bird needs to shut up. Either makeup for a wedding. Oh my god, the bird. Stop! If you're interested in learning that, go ahead and keep watching. Okay, so let's get started. Oh my god, that bird! The Anastasia. Hey there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Allie,